I never believed in safe spaces until I found one in a 24-hour diner that smelled like burnt coffee and yesterday's bacon grease. The kind of place where the vinyl booths are cracked and patched with duct tape, where the fluorescent lights hum just a little too loud, and where nobody asks questions about why you're there at 2 in the morning on a Tuesday. His name was Marcus, and for 3 months he gave me the same booth every single time I walked through that door. The corner one, tucked away from the windows, where I could sit with my back against the wall and watch the door, where I felt like maybe I could breathe. I started going there after the breakup, not the kind of breakup where you cry for a week and then move on, the kind that makes you question everything you thought you knew about yourself, about what you want, about who you're allowed to want it with. I'd been with Rachel for 4 years. Everyone said we were perfect together. Her friends, my friends, our families. We had the apartment, the plans, the future, all mapped out like some kind of heterosexual GPS guiding us toward the white picket fence finish line. And I tried. God, I tried so hard to want it the way I was supposed to want it. But there was this thing inside me, this truth I kept pushing down deeper and deeper until one day it just erupted. I told her I couldn't marry her. I told her I was sorry. I didn't tell her about the dreams I'd been having, about the way my chest tightened when certain guys smiled at me, about how I'd started watching videos late at night trying to understand what the hell was wrong with me. She threw a lamp, a nice one too. Then she left and I was alone in our apartment that suddenly felt like a museum of a life I'd been pretending to live. That's when I found the diner. It was 3 in the morning and I couldn't sleep, couldn't think, couldn't exist in that apartment for one more second. I drove around aimlessly until I saw the neon sign flickering in the darkness. Sal's Diner. Open 24 hours. The first night, I sat at the counter because I didn't know any better. The place was mostly empty except for a couple of truckers and a woman who looked like she'd been crying. Marcus was behind the counter, wiping down the coffee maker. He was maybe 6 feet tall, with dark hair that curled slightly at the ends, and these eyes that were so brown they were almost black. He had forearms that suggested he did more than just pour coffee for a living. And when he smiled at me, it was the kind of smile that didn't ask for anything in return. "Coffee?" he asked. "Please." He poured it without another word, but I caught him glancing at me a couple times, not in a creepy way. More like he recognized something, like he'd seen whatever was written all over my face before. I came back the next night, and the night after that. It became a routine. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the years I'd wasted, all the feelings I'd buried, and then I'd give up on sleep and drive to Sal's. The 3rd or 4th night, Marcus was there again. He looked up when I walked in, and this time, his smile was different, warmer, like he'd been expecting me. "Corner booth?" he asked. I must have looked confused because he gestured toward the back. "You look like a corner booth kind of guy, more private, quieter." He wasn't wrong. I nodded, and he grabbed a coffee pot. "I'll bring this over." That booth became mine. Every single time I came in, no matter how crowded the diner was, Marcus made sure it was available. If someone was sitting there, he'd gently guide them to another spot before I arrived. I didn't understand it at first. Didn't understand why this stranger was showing me this small kindness. I'd sit there for hours sometimes, nursing coffee and picking at pie I barely tasted, watching the world through the diner windows, watching people come and go, living their lives, while I tried to figure out how to start living mine. Marcus would check on me throughout his shift, never intrusive, never pushy. Just a warm-up on the coffee, a fresh fork, a quiet, "You doing okay?" that felt genuine. One night, maybe 6 weeks into my routine, he brought over a slice of apple pie I hadn't ordered. "On the house," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. My heart did this stupid flutter thing. He'd never sat with me before. "It's my break," he explained, like he needed to justify it. "Mind if I sit?" No, that's fine." Up close, I could see the tired lines around his eyes, the small scar above his left eyebrow, the way his server's apron was stained with what looked like ketchup and coffee. He smelled like diner grease and something else, something clean. Soap, maybe. Or just him. "You come here a lot," he said. It wasn't a question. "Can't sleep?" I figured. He wrapped his hands around a cup of coffee he'd brought for himself. His fingers were long, elegant even, with a small tattoo on his right wrist I couldn't quite make out. Bad breakup? I laughed, but it came out bitter. That obvious? I've seen that look before. He took a sip of his coffee. Hell, I've had that look before. Something about the way he said it made me brave. Or maybe I was just tired of carrying it alone. Have you ever felt like you've been lying to yourself for so long that you don't even know what the truth looks like anymore? Marcus didn't answer right away. He just looked at me with those dark eyes, and I felt seen in a way I hadn't felt in years, maybe ever. Yeah, he said finally. I have. We sat in silence for a moment. The diner hummed around us, the coffee maker hissing, someone laughing at the counter, the cook shouting an order through the window. I was engaged once, Marcus said. To a woman, Emily, sweet girl, loved her even, but not the way she deserved, not the way she needed. My throat tightened. What happened? I finally admitted to myself what I'd known since I was 15. He met my eyes. That I'm gay. The word hung in the air between us. Gay. Such a simple word, such a complicated word, a word I'd been circling around in my head for months, too afraid to let it land. How did you know? I whispered. I just did. Deep down, I always did. I just spent a lot of years trying to be what everyone expected instead of who I was. He smiled, sad and knowing. It's exhausting, isn't it? Pretending? I felt something break open in my chest. I had dreams about my roommate in college, about my best friend's brother, about the guy who worked at the gym, and I'd wake up feeling guilty and confused and terrified because I had a girlfriend and I loved her and I wasn't supposed to feel those things. But you did feel them. Yeah, I did. Marcus reached across the table and put his hand over mine. It was warm and calloused and solid, and I thought I might cry from the simple human contact. It's okay, he said. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're figuring out, it's okay. His break ended too soon. He squeezed my hand once and then slid out of the booth, back to his shift, back to pouring coffee and taking orders. But something had shifted. Some door had opened. After that night, Marcus sat with me on every break. Sometimes we talked about heavy things, about coming out and family reactions and the fear of starting over. Sometimes we talked about nothing, about movies and music and whether the pie was better with ice cream or whipped cream. I learned that he'd moved to the city 5 years ago after his engagement ended, that he worked at the diner to pay the bills while he finished his degree in social work, that he wanted to help LGBTQ youth because he wished someone had helped him when he was younger, that he had a cat named Biscuit who apparently had strong opinions about everything. I learned that his laugh was infectious, that he was patient and kind, that he noticed things about people, that he remembered I took my coffee black and hated tomatoes and always folded my napkin into small squares when I was anxious. And I learned that somewhere between the coffee refills and the late-night conversations, I was falling for him. It terrified me. This was all so new, so raw. I was barely figuring out who I was, barely comfortable with the word gay when I said it to myself in the mirror. I wasn't ready for this, for him, for the way my heart raced when he smiled at me. But Marcus never pushed. He was just there, steady and warm, giving me space to figure things out. One night, about 3 months into my diner routine, I came in and found the corner booth occupied by a couple who were clearly in the middle of a fight. Marcus caught my eye and winced apologetically, then gestured to a different booth nearby. I slid in, feeling oddly displaced. It was stupid, I knew. It was just a booth. But it had become my safe space, my corner of the world where I could be confused and scared and myself. Marcus brought coffee without being asked. Sorry about the booth. They were here first and they looked like they needed privacy. It's fine. But he could tell it wasn't. He glanced at the clock, then at his manager, who was buried in paperwork at the back counter. Give me 5 minutes. He came back with his jacket and his keys. Come on. What? My shift ends in 20 minutes. Jake can cover. Come on. I followed him out into the parking lot, confused and a little nervous. He led me to an old pickup truck that had seen better days. Get in. Where are we going? Somewhere better than a booth. He drove us to a park overlooking the city. It was late enough that we were alone, early enough that the sky was still dark. We sat on the tailgate of his truck, The city lights spread out below us like scattered stars. I come here sometimes, Marcus said, when I need to think, when the diner gets too loud. It's beautiful. Yeah. But he was looking at me when he said it. My breath caught. The air between us felt charged, heavy with something unspoken. Can I tell you something? Marcus asked. Anything? I've been waiting for you to walk through that door every night for 3 months. I gave you that booth because I wanted you to feel safe. I sat with you on my breaks because I couldn't not sit with you. He turned to face me fully. And I know you're figuring things out, and I know this is all new, and I don't want to pressure you or make things complicated, but I need you to know that I care about you. A lot. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might break through my ribs. Marcus, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. But I did have to say something, because I was tired of hiding, tired of being afraid, tired of pretending. I care about you too, I said. And that terrifies me because I'm still figuring out who I am and what I want, and I don't want to mess this up or hurt you or... He kissed me. Soft and gentle and perfect. His hand came up to cup my face, and I felt something inside me finally settle into place. Like I'd been holding my breath for years and could finally exhale. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. We'll figure it out together. No rush, no pressure. Just together. I kissed him again, and this time, it was me who initiated it. Me who was brave enough to reach for what I wanted. We stayed there until the sky started to lighten, talking and kissing and planning nothing, because the future felt less terrifying when I wasn't facing it alone. Marcus still gives me the corner booth, but now he sits with me for more than just his breaks. Now his hand finds mine across the table. Now when I can't sleep, I don't drive to the diner alone. He's usually already at my apartment, or I'm at his, and we talk until the sun comes up, or we don't talk at all, just exist together in comfortable silence. I'm still figuring things out. Coming out is a process, not a moment, but I'm doing it. I told my sister last week. She cried and hugged me and said she already knew. I'm working up to telling my parents. Marcus says there's no timeline, no right way to do it. The diner still smells like burnt coffee and bacon grease. The vinyl booths are still cracked. But now when I walk through that door, I'm not looking for a place to hide. I'm looking for Marcus, for his smile, for the way he makes me feel like I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. Sometimes the safest space isn't a place at all. Sometimes it's a person who sees you, really sees you, and doesn't ask you to be anything other than yourself. Sometimes it's a guy at a diner who gives you the booth in the corner and sits with you on his break, who waits patiently while you figure out your truth, and who's still there when you finally do.